Hi everybody, welcome back to our series of lectures on Microsoft Access. We are almost complete with the module. Today we are looking at something called relationships. Now, if you remember one of the theory lessons, we discussed the types of relationships that you have between tables and relational databases. Today we're going to take an in-depth look at that. Not in too much detail, but the activity for today is to create a relationship between two tables. So you need to go into Blackboard, go into the Content tab, scroll down until you see here Access Relationship Practical. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the Access Relationship Practical activity. And you will see there will be two files here. There is a question paper and there is a database that you're going to work with. I'm going to first open the question paper, which we can have a look at. Now the question paper, if I go through it briefly, is asking us how to create a relationship between two tables, or it's actually explaining to you how to create a relationship between two tables. Please be aware there is more than one method to do this. I am just showing you the one today. And we are going to be working with two tables. We're going to have the employee details table, and we are going to have the employees hour table, and between these two we're going to create a relationship. So what you need to do is, first of all, bear in mind the way that I am going to show you in the lecture, and then after that you can attempt to create the relationship by reading the question paper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the database. And the first thing I need to do, please bear in mind that Access can be used to transmit viruses from one computer to another, so it does have built-in protection. And if you have a look here, it says security warning, certain content in the database has been disabled. Now, you cannot work with the database unless you enable that content. So we always click on Options and we click on Enable this content. It is a security feature that is built into Access, and we want to enable that content. Please be aware, you cannot email your lecturer a plain database. Again, for security reasons, you need to zip it first and then email the database. If you're not sure on zipping, you're welcome to ask on the WhatsApp groups. In any case, back to the lesson. Let's click on Enable this content, and you will see that dialog will go away. Now, in this database in exercise 7, we have two tables here. Employee details, which lists each employee. And if we have a look at this, if I move into my design view, I will see there that the person's ID number is the primary key. And we have employee hours, which I'm also going to move into design view. And you will see it actually has what they call a joint primary key, the ID number and the week. Don't worry too much about that at this stage. I am just showing you the two tables that you need to see in both design and datasheet view. So we have employee details and we have employee hours. So you will have an employee that's going to work a certain amount of hours, and you will keep that information in two tables. Now, the first thing to remember when creating relationships is that you cannot work on a table that is open. The activity will not work for you. So once you've had a look at your table, even though it's not in the instructions, close your table and close your other table. So we are sitting here with our two tables that are closed. I am going to go to, at the top of the dialog, my database tools, and in there you will see a button with a couple of tables on it that says relationships. I am going to click on relationships, and it's going to ask me which table I would like to show. Well, I would like the employee details, and I would like to see as well the employee hours. Otherwise, we cannot create a relationship between them. Once I've finished selecting the tables that I want, now there could be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Today and in this lesson, we're only working with a single relationship between two tables. I'm going to click on close. And what I'm going to do is I want to be able to see properly here. So I can't see all of my table. I can just go to the corner, make it a bit bigger, and lay it out in a manner that we can see all of the fields. And there is your first table with its primary key, which is ID number, and then your employee hours table, which has got what we call a composite primary key, which is ID number and week. Please be aware, depending on how you select your tables, you may need to swap them around to create the relationships, but I will show you that just now as well. Right, what we would like to do is very simple. We have one person with an ID number, and we want to link that table to the employee's hour table. I will click on ID number, and I will simply drag it, holding down my mouse, to the ID number week key. And it's asking me here, edit my relationship. What would I like here? I want table, employee details ID number, and I want the related table, that is the relationship, is employee hours and ID number. I'm going to click on here, enforce referential integrity. Now, enforce referential integrity, just make sure that Access will not let you refer to a table that doesn't exist. Very easy. I click on the create button, and you will see here I have a relationship between the employee details table and the employee hours table. I can move this around, and Access will help me in terms of what the relationship looks like. Now, if you go back to the previous theory lesson where we discussed relationships, there are 3 kinds of relationships. There is a one-to-one. For example, one person can have one ID number, and that is the only way that it can work. Then you have a one-to-many, which, to give you an example, one car could have many colors, or one type of car could have many colors. And then we have a many-to-many, and an example of that is many students can take many subjects. It is just a rule, and it depends on the scenario surrounding the database. In this case, one person with one ID number can work many weeks and many hours. Don't worry too much about that at this stage. That is creating the relationship. Should you wish to edit the relationship, you can go to that relationship and double click on it, and you will get your information again where you could change that ID number. I'm going to show you once more. I'm going to click on that relationship, and I'm going to press the delete key. Do you want to permanently select the relationship? It's going to tell me yes. To show you again, I'm going to close relationships. I'm not going to save any changes. You will begin the activity as so, with your tables closed. You go to Database Tools, you click on Relationships. It's going to ask you which tables would you like to use, where I want the employee details and I want the employee hours table, then I can close my selection window. Obviously I cannot, it's too small, I cannot see everything in here because it's given me a scroll bar. I'm going to make my table a bit bigger. I'm going to put the other one a bit further away, and let's make it the same size for the sake of neatness. To create our relationship, we very simply click on what I would like to relate to the second table. So this is your primary table, this is your secondary or related table. I'm going to click on ID number, I'm going to drag it across, and I'm going to click on, I'm going to drop it on ID number as well. Make sure with your dialog that you have the correct table. It's employee details ID number and employee hours ID number. You can select different fields to relate to other fields, but that is something that we will discuss at a later stage. We have a join type, which I'm not going to deal with today. I'm just going to enforce referential integrity, which will make sure that I'm not referring to a table that is not there in my queries, and I'm going to click on create, and there is my one-to-many relationship. If you make a mistake and you want to delete it, you just click on your relationship and you tell it, yes, I want to delete it. And that effectively, students, is creating a relationship between two tables. If I had a third table here, I could create a relationship. If I had a third table where the primary key is hours, I could create a relationship between those two tables as well. But for the sake of today's lesson, we are only creating one relationship between two tables. I hope you find this easy. Please feel free to ask any questions on the WhatsApp groups. And that is the end of today's lesson. I hope you have a wonderful day.